Hey guys, how you doing? This is Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, saying what is going on, and welcome to another episode of Flufftalk. And today with me, I have my man that is a little bit off-centered there. If you could scoot over just a tad bit. Yeah, there this you way? Go. Yeah, scoot over that way.
Better?
Yeah. Yep. I don't like sitting in a bunch of silence, but I'm still trying to get... Oh, no. I'm just saying, I don't like talking like that. So, how you doing, man?
Oh, you know, living the dream. It's been a long day for both of us.
Awesome. So. Yep. So, yeah, right now, what I'm doing is I'm checking sound to make sure that everything is good. Alright, that's pretty good. Let me just turn you up just a tiny bit.
Just a teensy weensy woo woo.
Just a teensy weensy bit. Yeah, because a lot of you guys have been on me so hard over the past couple of weeks saying, you need to fix your sound. And there we go. So, now that we got all this in, what's up, everybody? I'm Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, and today we are talking fluff on one of our favorite RPG / tabletop war games from all the way back in the day. Hang on. Oh, that's actually fun. Sorry, I was getting a little bit of a feedback loop coming across, so yeah, all that squeaking and all that stuff that you guys were hearing, that should be done. But we are talking about today one of our favorite role-playing / tabletop minis from way back when we were young and spry enough to walk up the hill to get to the gaming store.
You know, it might be fair to say that there's a difference between the two. Hi, I'm Carl Viking. The tabletop war game, absolute favorite. The role-playing game, a little harder to sell back in the day.
Well, you know, quite honestly, when it came to, you know, it's a tabletop role-playing game. Yes, we're going to play the roles that essentially we were already doing at the table. We just decided to finally add stats to it, and it went over like a lead balloon, didn't it?
Well, you know, I did like it, but the thing is, you have to understand, if you've known me for a while, if there's one thing it could be said that I really like, what would that thing be?
Anime?
Yeah. What's my favorite genre in anime?
Oh, you know, half of me wants to, like, do since we're on YouTube right now, half of me wants to be like, oh, well, we know your favorite is... It rhyme... Well... Let's just call it a bunch of people in spandex suits that doesn't start with a Z. But no, I know for a fact that your favorite anime is operas in space.
Space operas and specifically giant robots.
Yep.
I love giant robots. So when the opportunity came by for me to play a war game on a tabletop with giant robots, oh my god, I was all over it. And then a few years later, someone tried to sell me on, okay, so we're going to play the guy inside the robot. I'm like, but robots. It was hard to get me out of the robot. Yeah, and so today we're talking about Mech Warrior, or what it's, I think, 4th edition is now called BattleTech: A Time of War, or something like that.
Something like that.
The name changes. But Mech Warrior is what it was first published with.
Yeah.
As back in 1986, 2 years after the original BattleTech.
Yeah, but you know what? We're not going to jump directly into that right now because I actually want to thank you for showing up.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to tell the good listeners about our adventures in travel, and I want to know how your week's been, man. And so do the people watching, like all 8 of them.
All 8 of them?
Yeah.
My week's been all right. It's just punishing. I'm a chef for my day job. It's very hot in the kitchen right now, doubly so in this perishing heat. So it's that... How to describe that fishbowl weather, you know, where you feel like an iguana in a terrarium, just licking at your own mouth all day long. It's just
fishbowl,
nonstop. just
making me thirstier than looking at pictures of Caribbean women in bikinis.
It's just nonstop, just awful, thirsty, muggy weather. So it's hard to stay chipper when the mood's like that, and when it's so warm in the house that your cats start using you as a cooling mat, something's terribly wrong. But other than that, my week's been good. I'm gearing up for the new session of my Night Vale RPG this Saturday.
All hail! Sorry.
All hail!
It happens.
I got to play a game of our Journeyman League War Machine, so that was fun. I'm getting to watch a bunch of people's updates from Gen Con, which is happening concurrently this weekend.
That is correct.
So I'm trying not to salivate over the new and delightful swag that's dropping on tables over there. So stay strong with me, Deckers. War Machine, so that was fun. But other than that, life continues as normal. We have adventures getting to and from the Back in the Deck studios, as you were saying.
Yeah, just I'm letting you guys know right now, getting to and from the Wizard's Tower at a time of day that you guys have said, I wish you wouldn't do your stuff early in the morning. Why not do it after I get off of work? Because it adds 3 hours production time to our day. That is no joke. Seriously, it was
a wild one.
Yeah. And this guy's like, yeah, pick me up from work at like 3:30. And I'm like, all right, cool. So, what I'm thinking is, I bust out the trusty old sling ring. Everything is going good. And then the damn thing busts on me. So I got to grab the car because for those of you guys that don't know, I'm 6'4". Recently I found out I busted 200 pounds, but, dad bod is perfect bod. And
did you find that on the internet somewhere?
No. I just found out I weigh perfect. So and Carl is like 6'6" and is about 30 to 50 pounds heavier than me. So I am not putting our happy butts on the back of my motorcycle. Besides, his bust line is a little small for my taste.
Fair.
Driving through not just rush hour traffic, but dock worker based rush hour traffic. And what that means is I've got a bunch of longshoremen, or shout out to stevedores, you guys work way too hard for anybody's own good. But I got you guys trying to hurry up and get home, ready to knife me. I got dudes riding 18-wheelers trying to get that last shipment in before they clock out. Or heaven forbid, they're hating that they're stuck in traffic on their way to freaking Utah. And then me on a little bitty motorcycle with a big old dude holding on me for dear life. And I would either die by crushing or die by Heimlich.
So instead of that, the car.
So instead of that, we grab the car, which means no lane splitting, no carpool lane on the way there. I'm just stuck in traffic with everybody else. And I'm like, man, why couldn't you go to work at 5:30 a.m. like most prep chefs?
Well, I don't prep.
Yeah, and, not to mention you've had the job for almost 20 years now, so you've earned the right to not go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Well, that's some creative math, but I have worked at this particular establishment for a bit, so I sort of get to choose my own hours. I might go and I might start coming and leaving just a touch earlier because that 3:30 in Redondo Beach is a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a special kind of I think I saw Freddy Krueger waiting for a lift, calling me bitch when I was trying to pick you up. But yeah, over the course of this week though, outside of our adventures and driving, I am tired. I am so tired. I have had so many up all-nighters in preparation for this show and the live stream that's happening on the Twitch. But what I am going to do is something I didn't do, because I said thank you for showing up, right?
You did indeed.
All right. Well, I also want to thank our wonderful people in the chat. Hey, chat. How you guys doing? Well, Vixen is in there. I honestly think she's one of our most loyal deckers, but I see a few other people watching, so if you guys are doing chores, that's all cool. We're going to be talking about geopolitics and Game of Thrones in space, but At the same time, we are also going to be talking about giant robots. So if you guys are out there and just watching, lurking, hey, talk to us in the chat, man. Believe me, this is like an interactive YouTube show, and I know that Twitch is the one that normally does this.
And here's a Decker subject that me and Solar were talking about on the way here. What, in your mind, really differentiates sci-fi from a space opera? What has to be in a sci-fi in order to turn it into a space opera?
And of course, my answer was space. That's one of the things.
My answer was different because we were talking about Star Blazers, and Solar commented that it might be that it was a space opera, and I was like, I don't know if it is, because I don't recall Star Blazers. So to me, it's always got to be both sides are shown. If they show both sides of the conflict, it's a space opera. If they don't, it's a sci-fi. So what do you guys think?
Yeah. So we're looking forward to seeing that, and for those of you guys that watch this after it's posted, not while it's live, feel free to talk about it in the argument section right down there. Oh, sorry, the comment section, not the argument section. All right, who are we kidding?
And I may very well wade in between the hours of I should go to bed and I should have gone to bed 3.5 hours ago.
So yeah, and of course, we were sitting up. It's the beginning of the month, so gotta love it. August 3rd, yay the 3rd. And here's the thing. Beginning of the month is the time of the month where we sit down and we're like, what are we going to talk about this month? I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. Let's pour through the tomes. And I'm happy to have another wizard with me on this show because I get real tired of being the only one with tomes,
Yeah, there are a lot of RPGs out there. That is what I have learned it from the internet, and a lot more than I was even initially familiar with, which was somewhat substantial. So I keep stumbling across new, or my fun one is always like, oh, they turned that into an RPG.
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, so like I'm getting excited about. I keep thinking we should talk about Deadlands pretty soon.
Honestly, I was thinking that for September when it cools down.
Yeah.
Maybe I might, film a little skit of a gunfight, put us in cowboy gear.
Or we could just call it Cool Hand Fluff Talk. We could just call it Cool Hand Fluff Talk. Come on.
Nah.
That's great.
Honestly, I'm trying to cut the jokes for the people that, talk about us looking at anime with one hand. See, it's still rated PG if it's alluding.
I was alluding to Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. But, we say... we're gamers, dude. We're tabletop gamers. So anything involving hands, where people's minds are going to go.
Well, that just implies that we're the worst common denominator, which is, while usually true, I like to think that we're a cut above sometimes, occasionally. Please. Please.
Yeah, so again, so I'm going to put that up in September for Deadlands, because that is a really fun system. And by system, I mean a fun set of stories. Cause
it's a fun setting, and like we were talking about with the previous episode, it's one of those systems that has rules that reinforce the setting, that sort of help and support it.
You and your crunch, man! I'm telling you, you're just the rules.
You know what? Here's my thing. If a game could be the most interesting thing in the world, but if the mechanic is flipping coins, I'm not interested. I'm sorry. It's got to have a good way of translating what they want, what the story they're trying to tell me, into my brain meats. They have to have a way to do that.
It's just, I figure when it comes to you, it could have a super interesting story, and you're gonna transport it to D20. Because that's
D20 is actually only my preferred for D&D. Like D20 in every other setting has kind of lost its luster for me. That might change when the new Pathfinder edition drops, but D&D serves a purpose, and what that purpose is not being terribly realistic. Your character is a goddamn superhero, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But when I want a more simulationist thing, I'm all about the style of the mechanics sort of reinforcing the style. If you want pulpy superhero-y stuff, yeah, D20 is where it's at. And there's even kookier settings than that. But yeah, no. Ultimately, it's going to be the story has to intrigue me, but at the same time, the dice. I'm not asking for it to be innovative or amazing. All I'm asking is that it be not just like, not make me want to beat my head against a desk.
Okay.
Because I love to run these games. I run more games than I get to play, and the thing is, the more work I have to do in order to tell a damn story, the less I want to run it or play it.
I'm with you. I'm definitely with you on that. Speaking of games that I'm going to be running, I am at 3 days and counting.
Oh, a nominee.
3 days. Yep. 3 days.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, 3 days before. 3 days before. I take the people to one of the other sections of the Wizard's Tower, and gathering up my players, gathering my people, and setting them on wacky adventures of angels and humans, and just unleashing them on the city of Los Angeles, and hoping that as a writer I can keep up.
Well, I liked the shtick you had with the one you ran for me and Dan Will all those years ago. So, and I understand you're keeping that shtick up.
I'm not keeping that shtick up. I'm just moving it to the 21st century, baby.
No, I meant the phone calls.
That's what I mean. 21st century, baby. We're doing Skype.
Skype?
Oh, yeah. We're
Skype?
Skyping or Facebook Messengering. Either way, people gonna be seeing the faces.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, man, it gives people a total chance to be over the top. Just think about that. I'm gonna call up this person. That's fascinating. Let's just say, for example, I've got one of the Judgment dudes doing the Skype call, and they call up one of our friends. If he wants to freaking light up a red LED behind a black velvet drop to symbolize the eyes of the Archangel of Judgment, while he's using his very deep voice to say how uninterested he is in various things, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. It would also require a lot of waiting around for that phone call.
Well, that just means that the Archangels are going to have to watch the live stream, aren't they?
Blah. That sounds like work.
Work? Yeah. Turn on the live stream and then do the dishes. Or turn on the live stream and freaking start painting miniatures. Oh, the horror. Oh, the horror.
You don't know the state of my miniatures, sir. You don't know that is actually work. And also, kind of triggering me a little bit at this moment. It's that bad. It's gotten that bad.
Wow. Okay. In which case, turn on the live stream and play with your kitten. Yeah, that's it. Play with your kitten. Yeah.
Play with my kitten. Sure.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, play with Alan and Victor, and But one of the reasons. Sorry about that, guys. One of the reasons that I decided to do the live cast and the Skyping and all that stuff is because it gives the people I've nominated to be the Archangels total opportunity for kibitz. Because the second half of the whole contact your Archangel thing is that they can contact you.
That's an interesting twist. I'm on top of that.
Yeah, so if the Archangels that I have are watching the show and the party is doing something stupid, the Skype call will go off. And I'll be like, oh, somebody's in trouble. And that's another layer of the fun and interaction.
So here's my question.
Uh-oh.
Is the chat going to be the scuttlebutt in heaven?
Yes, actually.
All right. You might get me to tune in then.
Okay. Just so that you can look at the chat going, that person is a pain in the ass.
Well, I don't know what Archangel I am yet, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Oh, okay. Well, the hint is behind you.
I'm looking at the screen, by the way, so I can see what's behind me, and I can't see what's behind me.
Don't give away our secrets. Yeah, don't tell them what you're doing. Those are our secrets. Our secrets. Oh, man. So, yeah. So, with that, I'm going to say, we'll be putting the announcements up on Deckers on the Book. It's going to be at Twitch/BidP. On Sunday, I just don't know what time, because I wrap up the show, Game Gallery with the Duggernaut at around 1.
Okay.
Then I'm packing up the studio and driving 15 miles through the Wizard's Tower to reset I'm essentially taking all this stuff to a different operation console in the TARDIS. So, yeah. Sadly, it's the one next to the costume store.
Well, keep me posted on the time. I'll be happy to play your. I'll be your Huckleberry for game.
Awesome. And by my rod and staff. Oh, let's see. I'm taking a quick look at the chat real quick, and it looks to me... Yep. We've got Spiderweb in there. And guess what, lady? I'm still wearing turtlenecks and a sweater today. Mwaha! Ha 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 ha.
Look, giant robots.
So damn tired.
Discussion of giant robots requires extra credibility.
Yeah, exactly. And since we're talking about outer space, outer space robots and all that jazz. Yeah, outer space robots and all that jazz, I decided to look extra studious today. You wait, winter's coming. I'll probably end up wearing the turtleneck with the wizard's robes.
See, I think it would go really well go to the tank top because it's damn hot.
A turtleneck with a tank
top?
No,
the vest with a tank top. It'll be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want you to know that the Wizard's Tower is located in the homosexual and LGBT capital of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I know is that, one thing I learned from gay men, an important lesson I know from gay men, is that tank tops are a privilege, not a right.
You're not selling me on this.
So it comes down to this. I've already got bad teeth, so if I show up in a tank top and a sweater, I may as well be wearing no pants with black socks with the little garters on them.
Look, I'm just saying that we need to cater to the demographics, whatever those are and however they dress.
No. We're raising the bar, mein Freund. We are raising the bar. And you know what? You might not think that, but I noticed that your beard is in a really well taken care of point. Like, you got beard game going, man.
Well, I try. Also, I work in a kitchen, so typically looking like a hobo isn't professional most of the time. Mind you, I know some cooks that do look and dress and sometimes even act like hobos, but I'm not them. I'm the old man of the kitchen right now, so
oh man.
So I have to be an inspiration of the younger generation, or at the very least be so on top of my game that I can just look at them and go, squint at the sun, spit, and just call them degenerates. It's very important, okay?
Like you wouldn't do that either way.
Absolutely I would. I just need to have the look to reinforce it.
Okay, I get that.
You know?
Get that. It's kind of one of the reasons I've been trying to worry a lot, because I need a little salt. I need a little salt in all this pepper. So people can be like, oh no, you're not middle-aged, you look like you're 31. I'm like, boy.
Yeah, I worked for a chef. I hated everything about the guy except I envied the way his gray was coming in because he had the Mr. Fantastic hair. It was literally just nice. It was just the sideburns. It was amazing. It was like, I was like, oh my god, if I could have hair like that when I turn your age, I would be my life would pretty much be complete at that point.
Well,
you know?
At that point, you'd also have to marry a hot blonde mathematician that played down her own intelligence, and you would have to be an evil bastard. Evil.
This is different from me. How?
No blonde, and you're more neutral.
I resemble that remark. Thank you very much. That is kangaroo court, sir. I think.
Yeah, but you know how I feel about Reed Richards. Don't get me wrong. He does rock the man gray. but
is there a Marvel genius who's just not awful completely and utterly?
Yeah. Peter Parker.
Well, new Peter Parker or old Peter Parker?
Always Peter Parker. He's been a super genius from day one, and he's not an awful dude.
I know, but Dr. Octopus Peter Parker was not as swell a fella. He was somewhat, what's the word? Roofless. Yeah,
roofless. He was straight up roofless. You go, spelled STRAIUP Roofliss. Straight up roofless. Yo. But yeah, I mean there's a lot of super geniuses that just aren't awful people in the Marvel universe. They like Goliath, or as they said because he's a 1960s character, Black Goliath, because the art's not going to remind you that he's a Negro.
Unfortunate, yes.
Yeah, you know, and Doc Samson. Doc Samson's not an awful person.
I've read some comics that say otherwise, but
okay, well that's fair.
But it just every time I come along a genius, I like want to like them, and I want to think they have the world's best interest in mind. And then like 10 issues down the like oh no, you're secretly awful, or you're so blindly pragmatic that you might as well be Hitler too. You know, just like. You know, it's just that you're doing all the same things, it's just that your intention is otherwise, and it's like, no, you're bad and dirty and wrong. You're the worst.
Yeah, so that's that's good stuff. Again, I'm not wiping my brow because I'm hot. I'm wiping my brow because I'm in so much pain from being tired. I've been doing some stuff, casting some spells, and running out of a few spell components, so I've had to start, like, let's just say it's a good thing I know that my family has long lifespans, because I can shave some off the back end to get a few things done. But all in all is the plight of the sorcerer.
Yes, indeed.
You know? But
we are not here to talk about sorcery.
Well, I was just thinking, like, if I had the right stuff, I wouldn't have to cast all this magic. I would probably build a robot to take care of the stuff that I gotta do during the day.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, you know.
Robots doing stuff for you is rad. Yeah. I mean, it's like a Roomba, but ideally with, you know, arms and also sentience. Maybe a plasma cannon. I don't know.
Oh, most definitely a Gauss rifle. And see, that was a segue.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Oh, look, it's Giant Robot O'Clock.
Yes, it's giant. Actually, it's Giant Robot 30, which is fun. So yeah, what we're talking about today is giant robots. All right. And for those of you guys listening on SoundCloud, the Viking is not amused.
Nay, not.
You know, even Emir had a sense of humor, dude. I
Yes.
knew the guy.
Yes, he did.
And you know how I know he had a sense of humor?
How?
Odin didn't have to nail himself to Yggdrasil. Emir just could have gave him a cup of the damn water.
That's fine. But I take after a character from Joe Madara's classic comic Battle Chasers, or at least Gully's impersonation of Garrison, which is an angry cartoon figure that just says, "I never smile."
It's true. He doesn't.
That's how I live. That's how I roll. Also, I've been herding the Cats Called Player characters for like 26 years of my life now.
That's
so
true.
I have developed this icy cool exterior so that I'm never taken aback by their shenanigans and rampant murder hoboism.
Yeah.
It's super important.
Yeah. And you know what those murder hobos could really use?
Well, if you say a giant robot, I would have to disagree, because at no point should a murder hobo ever get their hands on a giant robot.
I'm not going to say a giant robot.
Okay.
Okay.
Eradication via giant robot?
Many giant robots.
Oh, God damn it.
I'm going to sneeze.
Salud. So, we're here to talk about... Well, we're here to talk about two things, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about BattleTech.
Actually.
We're talking about some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the end of the day, we're talking about BattleTech. BattleTech was a tactical tabletop game published in 1984.
Right. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, it breaks down to you have little toys of giant robots, and here are the rules for playing with them.
Here's the rules for smashing each other to pieces on a little hex battle map. Okay. 2 years later, they jumped into the RPG game and published Mech Warrior. The MechWarrior rules, more or less, were the same as BattleTech's, pretty much. The only thing is you got to play in the world of BattleTech. And so, I don't know how long ago they started publishing Dungeons and Dragons novels. I know some of the earliest ones were like the Dragonlance novels.
Yeah, with Hickman and Weiss.
But Robotech was a pretty quick study, or FASA, the company that put it out, was a pretty quick study on that as well. They jumped into the novel game pretty quick with the Warrior trilogy and a lot of books written by Michael Stackpole, who's quite well known. So very quickly they developed a universe, or a meta-universe about the series. Sort of going into, who are these? We've just created some fun, happy names for our worlds and countries and things, and the novels, flesh it out, tell you more about it. So there's a pretty deep pool of knowledge for the MechWarrior universe. But to put it in a nutshell, if I ought,
let's put it in a drop ship. It's important.
Yes. So they have a world, they have Earth, much like ours, except right around now, they develop the Kearney Fuchida drive, which is...
By now, he literally means late 20th century, early 21st century. So I think the first drive was what, 20...
No, it's like now, early in the 21st century. So
okay.
Right about now, they would have developed the Kearney Fuchida drive, which allows for faster than light travel. That's the foundation of the BattleTech universe. 100 years later, they have colonized their first colony, the first extrasolar colony outside the solar system, called on planet called New Earth in 2116. Okay, so things are going pretty swell there, except in about 100 years later. So all these colonies spread out, and they sort of divide amongst, I guess, sort of cultural lines. Sort of. There's each of these huge sectors has sort of a monoculture about them, and they're sort of divided along. I guess they just sort of divvied it up along real like geopolitics. Sort of factions. There's like a couple of regions that are sort of like Greater Asia, or at least that's the core of them, and there's a couple that are like distinctly American or Germanic, and there's a couple that are of
Asian.
So Asian. There's one that's kind
of Asian.
There's one that's like kind of Spanish. There's two that are sort of like more like Germanic, and the other ones that are more like English kind of imperialist, and they're sort of all built around this this small sector containing Earth, which they call the Terran hegemony. Okay, so the Terran hegemony makes the rules, and the outer colonies follow it until they get tired of that crap. About 100 years after New Earth is settled, they start to rebel, and so the rebellion comes to an end, and they sort of unite into these 5 great houses surrounding the Terran hegemony that found the houses of modern day BattleTech. That's the Federated Sons, the Draconis Combine, the Capellan Confederation, the Lyran Commonwealth, and the Free Worlds League. These are things that you're going to hear about all the time in BattleTech. Sort of the founding countries of the game world. So you flash forward to the 2400s, and the battle mech is invented. Giant walking robots, giant weapons platform that can eradicate whole swaths of armies with a minimum of effort. And right about the same time, just as almost as important to the story, if not necessarily the actual game, is this idea of this legal work, or this legal agreement called the Ares Conventions. The Ares Conventions is sort of like the Geneva Convention of space.
Now I want to pull up. I want to pull up a picture. Of
Oh yeah, by all means.
Mechs real quick, because again, what is the point of having a video medium? Oh, look at that. Yeah, and that. Let's see. It looks like we've got a Mad Cat here. You know, Mad Cat, and that's kind of fun. And yeah, little guy. There's the pilot. There it is. You know, and yeah, quite honestly, these things are like what 2 to 5 stories high. I mean, they're huge. They're huge. They're stupid. Oh yeah, here's really good showing of a few. There, a lot of them have the chicken leg design, but they look like big, stompy robots. And that's exactly what they are.
Yes.
Big, slow, stompy, not anime type robots.
And that was an important thing. Funny you should mention anime. We'll get to that in a second.
Oh yeah.
But they were definitely designed with sort of clunk in mind.
Oh yeah, so much clunk.
Yeah.
Oh my
so
god.
they are less like your cool anime robots and more like slow plodding walking tanks. A couple of them move fast. Most of them do not. And a lot of them, fulfill the role of pretty much a weapons platform more than being aesthetically pleasing. It's literally 2 legs on which you can put as many missiles and plasma cannons as conceivably possible.
Yep, energy weapons and ballistic weapons.
Yeah.
So we are literally talking the difference between Iron Man and War Machine.
Right.
And again, this is important because it goes into the lore, the cultures, and the science involved.
Yes. Science. So like I was saying, right about the time the battle mech is invented, there's also these things called the Ares Conventions. And the Ares Conventions are very important to the overall fluff and story and sort of theme of Battletech, which we'll get into very shortly. Now, the Ares Conventions introduces the concept of limited warfare. Limited warfare is, we are not going to blow all of our resources to annihilate one another to prove a point. What we're going to do is we're going to have a stated intention, and then we are going to agree upon terms upon which we battle, and then resolve this conflict. So, and everyone goes, well, not squandering resources is pretty great. This sounds like a great idea. So it eventually evolves to, at the height, to be something like duels, or almost like a galactic game of chess. With
sometimes chess. I like the idea of duels because it does have a very good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah,
especially when you get to certain factions.
You get your posse of 5. I'll get my posse of 5, and we'll duke it out, and we'll not have to spend 12.5 trillion kroners to figure out who was right on that piece of trivia or whatever. So everyone sort of agrees that it's kind of a great idea. And around that time, they also form, and actually, so the limited warfare brings a lot of the nonsense and all-out war to a crashing halt, which everyone is pretty stoked about. And then everything's going swimmingly until this guy from one of the periphery worlds engineers the death of the king of what's called the Terran hegemony.
No relation to World War I.
No, not at all.
We're not talking Archduke Ferdinand, and it has nothing to do with that whatsoever.
No, not even remotely. Not even a tiny little bit. So anyway, and this is in their timeline about 2766, something like that. So the leader of the Terran hegemony is killed, as well as his entire family. And then there's a coup, and then all of those great houses that had united under the Terran hegemony start going, well, I think my claim to the throne of all space is pretty legit. And another house is like, well, no, I think mine is more legit. So naturally they fall into bloody, awful, terrible war. And this goes on for... There are like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 segments in the timeline of BattleTech where war rages on for over 100 years. Wars in space apparently just have one thing in common, and it is longevity.
Yeah, it's now when we're talking like interstellar warfare, faster than light travel, I mean, again, the scope and the distance of warfare with what am I thinking? The scope and the distance when it comes to I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm going to prove it with violence.
Mm-hmm.
Just the travel time in between the planets and all that jazz, even though it's faster than light, it still takes a while. So these wars get really, really drawn out.
Yeah, they get drawn out over a very, very long period of time.
We got somebody in the chat here saying, I think I remember there was a BattleTech cartoon series.
There was indeed. It didn't last very long, and oh my gosh, it was terrible. With the earliest of 90s era computer-generated cutscenes, oh my gosh, it was... I remember my favorite line, I will cut open your armor as easily as I slice into a naranji, which is their word for orange.
Honestly, one of my favorite statements actually came from that show, which is information is ammunition. I like that very much. So I think I've got some footage of it here.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna pull it up?
I have to. It's been mentioned. I have to. I'm compelled.
So it's important to note in the BattleTech timeline that an organization called the Star League, right after they stopped waging war for almost 2 centuries, they're like, okay, we need to knock this stuff, or like a century and a half. They just like, okay, we need to knock this off. So they form the Star League, which is those great houses in the Terran hegemony. They sort of ally and consolidate their power, realizing that they cannot consolidate their power just for no reason. They basically go, those periphery assholes that didn't want to join, everything is their fault. So they scapegoat the periphery systems and wage a brutal war on them, and thus unify, let's say, 80% of the galaxy.
Okay.
So, flash forward about another 200 years of... That's the golden age, the Star League. Everything's swell under the Star League, or so the stories like... Oh my god, is that it?
Oh yeah, yeah. See,
hot diggity dog, that is...
We got some of the... Really,
throw it on there.
Look at that. Just look at that. It is so
90s.
Yeah, so 1994. It is. But one of the things that it does
was that BattleTech or was that Gem of the Holograms? I can't tell.
Sure. Sure, actually. It works. But one of the things that it's really showing here is it is very clunky.
Yes,
they do slow.
They capture the clunk really well in the cartoon. They don't capture much else very well in the cartoon, but they do capture the clunk.
I have laser. I stand.
And the cartoon was actually sort of I guess you would say, a modest or at least spirited attempt to capture the fluff of the novels. It
really was.
They were vaguely, in some sense, based or referential to the novels, which was kind of fun.
Yeah. Ironically, the novels did a really good job, primarily because the people that wrote the game also wrote the books.
For sure. I mean, there was definitely involvement, so it wasn't no one branch of it got too crazy go nuts. Yeah. It's not like TSR cartoons under Gygax in California, whereas the rest of D&D had in no way, shape, or form ventured beyond Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
But now is the time to act.
Yes. So there was involvement on all sides. So while it was a failed attempt, it was an attempt, and it was what it was. At least it was entertaining. I remember getting up on Saturday mornings and watching the damn thing.
Right.
You know, it was meaningful.
With its knockoff in Exo Squad.
Hey, you will not speak ill of Exo Squad. That was the greatest of cartoons. The greatest.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. By the way, just to let you guys know, the entire series of BattleTech is on YouTube. So, just figured I'd let them know that.
Why do you have to let me know about that? Because that's a rabbit hole, sir.
Because you're on the show, and this is what we do, bruh.
Well, I know how I'm going to spend my weekend when I'm not being an archangel.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So,
like
back to the timeline. The Star League gets together. They do their rockin' thing about 200 years. Then the leader of the Terran hegemony is assassinated. Then there's a bloody coup. Then everyone's like, nah, that throne is mine, son. And thus begins another bazillion or so years of war.
Damn,
however,
I'm getting yelled at in the chat. Some like Yosho700 was like, "Don't you put down Exo Squad?" I'm like, "Okay."
I know, man. Trust me, people are more passionate about Exo Squad than the BattleTech cartoon. Probably because the Exo Squad cartoon actually finished.
Yeah.
And BattleTech was canceled after a season.
Yeah, I will say that.
So, now here's the pivotal and really important part of the entire timeline of BattleTech.
The fact that Exo Squad had better animation?
Well, I mean, that's part of it, but that has nothing to do with BattleTech.
Anyway, continue.
General Alexander Kerensky is Kerensky, the man after which all things are named.
Kerensky.
What's our new unit of measurement? It's the Kerensky.
Yes.
How do I spend this? What do you call it? We call it a Kerensky. So Alexander,
where do you live? I live on the second floor of my Kerensky, on Kerensky Boulevard, in Kerenskyville. Where is that? Planet Kerensky.
Duh. So, General Alexander Kerensky, he is the leader of the Star League Defense Force.
Right.
And he watches these houses sort of cannibalize each other and are like, nah, man. And they're all coming to him like, hey, you got my back on this. Mm-hmm. I'm the one true king of Camelot, right? And Kerensky's like, you know what? I got a call on the other line. I'll get right back to you.
Or as I like to say, let me go get you that answer. You just stay right there.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Alex, big dog. I got this problem. There's like 50-something thousand battle mechs on my planet. Will you help me smoke these fools? And Alex is like, let me get that answer for you in just a second. So I've got another call. It's so weird. So many calls today. So Kerensky's like, okay, these guys are committed to tearing each other to shreds, and I am not going to play Kingmaker. This is stupid. We're out. He literally takes 80% of the space of the forces and goes, nah, let's, second star on the left, straight till morning, go. And they leave. They leave what is known and colonized space. And they leave these fools to their infighting for another 3 centuries.
Which, don't get me wrong, one of their ships had a really cool captain, a bald French guy, and he was just out there exploring and reading a bunch of stuff.
Probably. Yeah, no. They did all kinds of amazing stuff in space. But, and here's honestly my biggest problem with BattleTech, is that, so Kerensky goes out there, they're leading away, like, no, we're not playing Kingmaker. And then a few years later, he goes, okay, guys, so remember when I said we weren't playing Kingmaker? Which I totally am on board with, except your next king is going to be my son, Nicholas. So, everyone give a nice round of applause to your new king, and everything's going to be swell.
And Nicholas loses his damn mind.
Nicholas had a little bit of a hero worship complex for his father, and is like, my dad had some great ideas. No, wait! Every idea my father had was the best idea, and we must dedicate our lives and our continual existence to the perpetuation of his ideas.
Especially the ones that contradict each other.
Yes! Super important. And they're like, okay, Lord President, call me Khan. Whoa, okay. How are we going to do this? Khan, Nicholas?
Who's Khan?
Yeah. So, step 1, eugenics. Which is,
a special kind of crazy, because when you start with genetic manipulation, it's like, you know what? We are going to do my father's ideas. We're going to build a better tomorrow. So first, ethnic cleansing. Then build up the perfect race. And then, after we build up the perfect race, we need to get them weapons good. Get them weapons. get them weapons, yo.
You take our weapons and be like, yo, weapons, get good.
Exactly.
So, I'm pretty sure there was an after-school special. It came on right after the one about friendship, of why you don't leave your empire to your unvetted children. I'm pretty sure I saw that when I was a kid growing up, but apparently, I guess Kerensky just didn't watch that same channel or whatever.
I think it was my little Kerensky fascism is magic.
Yes,
I think that's
it was.
what
It was absolutely that one. So, anyway, very quick turn of events from no, I'm not going to play playing Kingmaker to we're going to use eugenics to make the perfect race of warriors and then come back and be kings. So, and this is like
kill all
within
the
the span
players.
of one man's lifetime. This happens. This is a kind of important.
Yeah.
So Nicholas Kerensky goes off the deep end and is like, okay, so now we're not just going to create the perfect soldier. We're going to create a caste system that is reinforced by phenotypes of genetically engineered super soldiers. He doesn't just create a super soldier phenotype. He doesn't just make Captain America. He makes Captain Mech Warrior. Mm-hmm. He makes Captain Pilot Guy.
Yep.
And he makes Captain Elemental. Now, you know what a mech is,
mm-hmm.
now that we've talked about it. You know what a pilot is. They fly a plane. What is an elemental, you ask?
An elemental,
I'm so glad you asked.
Yes. Now, I have a special love in my heart for elementals. I really do. Essentially, for those of you guys listening, imagine the most badass line from Aliens and what our favorite character was wearing, and now make it even more awesome and just as clunky.
Yeah, so they're like, okay, powered armor's pretty sweet, right?
Oh yeah.
But and here's the thing that always has me giggling. They develop power armor. And then they go, you know what would make our power armor even sweeter? Is if we had really swole dudes in the powered armor. That just makes it stronger. So the elemental phenotype is a troglodytic, ginormous super soldier who straps himself into an even more ginormous suit of powered armor, which compared to a battle mech is about this tall. And then they go around and they wreak havoc on battle mechs. They're not designed for fighting civilians. It's 5 of these jerks take down a giant walking weapons platform.
Yeah,
that is their job.
Here we have a picture or some sketches of the elementals.
Yeah, we're talking. That's like between 10 and 12 feet tall.
Yeah, that's it.
At the most.
And for those of you guys that are getting some similar elements going on, yes, we are talking almost Space Marines.
Yes.
They're almost Space Marines, except they go, we're Space Marines with one purpose. You see that 5-story thing? We scrap it while it's moving.
Yeah.
That is what they're there for. Yeah, they essentially go, we're not going to cut the pipe. We are not going to take down this giant battle mech. We need the parts. We're just going to get in there and we are going to cut the pilot out of the machine, and then we're going to jack the machine.
Yeah.
You know?
So elementals. So again, reinforcing this case society, elementals only do elemental stuff. Mm-hmm. Mech warriors who are genetically engineered to be better at piloting giant robots. I guess they have that anime hair or something.
Better than you.
Better than you. Yes,
Yeah,
this is important.
They're like Shatterstar.
They're like Shatterstar from Deadpool too. Yeah, I'm exactly like a human, except better than you in every conceivable way.
Yeah. Or elves.
Yes,
Like
they're
elves.
the elves of they're the elves of the BattleTech universe, and then the pilots are genetically superior at piloting. These are actual phenotypes. They are distinctly different from humans. They have been bred that way. And again, all this happens within this
new world, one might say.
Yes, really happens within the span of one man's life. Kind of interesting. So it takes about 300 years for the clan to get their collective shit together and go, all right, we're going to go save the Star League from itself. And they mount their glorious return to the Inner Sphere in the Inner Sphere invasion. So this is about 3048. The clan starts appearing once again.
And they are all here on behalf of Lord Darkseid to liberate you from the chains of your own life and your own existence. Oh, sorry. They are here to Kerensky you from your Kerensky of the Kerensky and the lowly Kerensky of your existence and your Kerensky.
Yes. So there's 2 important points about that. The first is that when Kerensky left, the idea of limited warfare was still in full swing. And he was just like, "This is a good philosophy. It's bad to squander resources, especially 300 years in the middle of space. They've colonized planets, but they're like, resources are important. Let's not squander them. If you have a serious beef with someone, you are going to settle it with the least amount of resources possible."
Absolutely.
So, this evolves into sort of this ritualistic combat that the clan loves, and this is what I actually really like about the clans, is they have this sort of bidding game where they're like, where they bid amongst each other, like who will get the honor of capturing this planet, and one clan will go, "Oh, I can take that planet with 7 lances," and one's like,
7 lancers?
"No, and,
I can take it with 3 phoenixes and 2 Goliaths."
No, or what they call stars. Yes. So a star or a cluster is a unit, a grouping of battle mechs or pilots. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I need 7 stars to take over that planet. Someone's like, "No, I can do it with 5.
Yeah, I can do it in 4.
Exactly.
It's
named that tune with giant robots.
Exactly.
I can conquer that planet in 4 tunes. So they come back to the inner sphere.
Honestly,
and they're like,
I can do it with 1 pink diamond.
Exactly.
That's all.
So they come back and they're like, "Okay, we battle for your planet. We will bid 5 stars." in the inner sphere, who 3 centuries ago were like, "Limited warfare? Nah. We're after the crown, and heavy is the head that wears that shit. Fuck this noise." So they've been practicing total war for about 3 centuries, and then these weird jerks come from outer space and like, "Oh, we will bid 7 quatlus on the fate of your planet." They're like, "Sure. That sounds like a great idea. Let's do that." Yeah, the second they hit land, just smoke them. And so very quickly you hear...
And hide in the bushes until they land.
Super important.
But this is dishonorable combat.
You start...
Hunter Kerensky?
Yeah. Kerensky? Is this a Kerensky? Are we talking about Kerensky? Are you speaking Kerensky right now?
Yeah.
So, are you speaking bat right now? So very quickly...
Where are you trying Kerensky?
So, very quickly, the clans start screaming about dishonorable combat, which the inner sphere is like, "Well, we're fighting for... This is literally an existential battle. We're fighting for our continued existence, so, yeah, we'll do what it takes." So begins the clan invasions. This rages on for like 4 years until the houses finally kind of unite, or at least to create a unified front with the aid of Comstar. Comstar is important because it is an organization that so much jargon. It's so stupid. I love it.
It's very Games of Thrones. And
yes.
Because we'll get to that after you finish the summary.
These systems got a lot of names. So after Kerensky left, there was under the Star League there was a unified system of communications. They use these things called, I think, like hyper pulse generators or something to do instantaneous communication across galaxies. Okay, neat. Then Kerensky is like, "No, we out." And then they're gone. And then these people are like, "Okay, kill each other." So really no one wanted to use the telephone anymore. So the last guy to run Comstar was a fellow by the name of Jerome Blake, and he's like, "So you guys, I think it's really important that we preserve communications for the future, because the future is a thing that is always approaching." And they're like, "Yeah, Jerome, you got some good ideas. We're going to do that." So he writes down some notes, and he takes down some locations and tells people like, "Oh, by the way, some of these planets that these monkeys that are smashing each other's brains apart, they don't know about the hidden caches of mechs. But we do, because we control the telephones. We are literally the wiretaps." So he jots down the location of a bunch of stuff and passes it on to his people and just like, keep this in your back pocket. Just rainy day, legions of battle mechs. Just hold on to that.
Just, here's a nuclear cache. Just, not saying you're gonna need it, but it's better to have it
than not need it. Than need it and not have it.
Yeah, so just saying, if you happen to get involved, I happen to have 40,000 giant robots in mint condition laying around.
Yeah.
Just an
FYI.
Yeah.
Just an FYI.
Or as they said in Arrested Development, always money in the banana cart.
So Comstar very quietly sort of held onto this information and was like, okay, you know what? We're just going to try to facilitate communications and then work towards finding other caches of these things so these barbaric morons do not destroy more planets in intergalactic war.
You know,
so
this part of the conversation is really making me think I better pay my phone bill, dude.
Right?
Don't let that just get late.
So, as happens with generational warfare in pretty much every sci-fi, they start losing the capacity to produce things. And it happens very quickly. Like, the first things that go out are interstellar spaceships.
Yeah.
Like, huge galactic cruisers. Like, they very quickly destroy, like, one planet just happened to have, under the Star League, it was like, that's the place with the best resources to build our spaceships. That's going to be the shipyard in orbit of this planet. And the first thing I do, well, fuck those guys. We don't want them having ships. If we can't have no ships, they can't have no ships. So they blowed that up. And now, can't make spaceships no more. All of these things start becoming referred to as lost tech because we've just lost the ability to make it. So drop ships, for example, remember, call back. Drop ships are super important. That's how you get battle mechs from one planet to another planet.
Yeah.
So those are
essentially there's a great big ship, and then you load up your giant robots that are all on the great big ships into a drop ship, and you literally drop the egg on the planet. It opens, and after it opens,
and then hell springs forth.
Yeah, exactly. And then, just like with so many Cadbury eggs, you get a whole bunch of giant, stompy, building, pushing over, Jaeger-sized, really slow robots with awesome weaponry that's almost impossible to maintain.
Yes, and the ability to create these is exceedingly rare, and it's represented in the game as it, like, to purchase a dropship is ludicrously expensive. So, lost tech. They're losing the ability to produce their advanced technology. So you have battle mechs that have literally been in service for decades, if not longer. As they lose the ability to repair them, to create new ones. So it almost becomes, it's this, and it was part of their setting to begin with, a sort of technological dark age, where, and it's described in other contemporary works of science fiction, like Asimov's Foundation. You get these things where you've got a guy, that the title of the guy who runs the nuclear power plant is hereditary.
Yeah.
He passes it on to his son. Like, he's just a foreman. He doesn't, in, like, this has happened over 3 or 4 generations. The guy literally has no idea what his job is, or even that he had a job. He's just, I'm the guy in charge because my daddy told me so.
Yeah.
So everything becomes,
Kerensky.
Yes, it got Kerensky. So it, in a way, what the clans did in one generation, whatchamacallit, the Inner Sphere is able to do in 300. So, I mean, clans are obviously more advanced, right?
Oh, yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, honestly, this whole... what I'm noticing about the fluff so far in this is it came along at a time, because this stuff is thick, and we've been researching the whole Mech Warrior thing. It's been 30 years out there.
Yep.
So there's been a lot of expansion on the stories, although there has not been a lot of forward motion in the plot line. It's like,
so
this is it's a lot like Game of Thrones in the sense of, this is a really rich universe. This is what we got.
Yeah.
Look at all the houses,
and
the clans, and the periphery things, and the economics, and we'll spend the next 30 years writing stories on 5 years of what's going on.
Yeah, so check it.
Time.
Battletech comes out in 1984, right?
Right.
All right, it's 2018. So that's 34 years. Okay, current timeline in the battle. So the first technical readout, the first timeline when Battletech started was 3025. Okay?
Yep.
Current timeline as of the newest iteration of the Battletech or Mech Warrior role-playing game is 3076.
Yeah.
51 years in 34 years. That is 1.5 years of game time per real world year. That is glacial.
Yeah.
There's, exactly as you said, there's not a lot of progression. And a lot of it comes down to, basically, they've spent those 51 years fighting the bejesus out of one another. Okay, so 3048 clan shows up. 3052, the Great Houses unite with Comstar, finally pull the clan into a huge confrontational battle where they win a 15-year truce. That's all they get out of it. They get like, you know what? We're going to have non-aggression for 15 years. And they're like, sold. Right around that time, Comstar has a factional break. There's the people who are just like, no, our job is to do the mail and hold on to these treasures of the Star League for safekeeping. And then there's another people like, nah, man, Jerome Blake was a prophet, dog. That guy knew shit beyond mortal ken. He came from the stars above. He came to save our future from the past. And people are just...
he came from a different planet to say, let's just keep the phone lines open.
No, he was magic. He was Magic Jesus in space. So,
if by magic you mean picking up the cell phone, like, hey, you know, if this is magic, that's cool.
Yeah, no. So, there's this other, we'll call them a cult, called the Word of Blake, who literally treat everything like everything that Blake wrote or said is put into a book, and that is the holy word. So the Word of Blake thinks that Blake was actually, like, no shit, a prophet who foretold of all things to come, as opposed to being the last DJ.
And he left his shoes so that we may gather shoes. And yeah, I mean, I like the idea that these stories actually take up this mantle, because whenever you have new societies building, there's always going to be the wackadoodle cult.
Yes,
every single time.
Absolutely, you cannot escape the wackadoodle cult. So, Word of Blake is amongst the fans of the fluff. The Word of Blake is very divisive because some people just think it's a natural evolution, and some people think that it made the universe less fun. Which, to be honest, it totally did.
Okay.
But at the same time, it is also kind of a natural evolution that a wackadoodle cult would fill a power vacuum during this time. So the Word of Blake gains power, and in in 3058, they're able to scoot the actual non-insane fanatical members of Comstar off of Earth and recapture Earth and the surrounding systems. And they're having a good old time. And right around that time, in response to the Great Houses come together to eradicate one of the particularly egregious clans. So when I keep saying the clans, what I mean is the sons and daughters of Kerensky sort of divvied themselves up. Now, there were the phenotypes, like I explained, mech warriors. There's a warrior caste, there's a science caste, there's a worker caste, and in the warrior caste, there's mech warriors, there's pilots, there's elementals. Everything is structured. And also, you're subdivided into clans that each have their own specialty or philosophy and so forth. So there's I think like 14 clans at the start of the war.
The popular most two.
The best known ones are Wolf, Jade Falcon, and Ghost Bear.
Yeah,
those are the ones that are featured in video games. And all the other ones are mentioned. You hear about Clan Diamond Shark, which is my personal favorite.
Of course.
Yeah,
Diamond Shark.
Well, no. The funny thing about Diamond Shark, the reason they're hilarious is because they were some other creature entirely, and then as like a prank, almost another clan went to that planet and killed the creature they were named after by creating a genetically super predator that was literally a shark who had scales that were as hard as diamonds. And Clan Diamond Shark, they're merchants, and they were like, no, that one's way cooler. That's our totem now. Now we're Clan Diamond Shark. How you like that? Yeah. So they're very adaptable, and then amongst the clans,
the Inner Sphere had houses.
Yes, the Inner Sphere had houses. The clans had clans.
Yeah.
Each is led by a Khan. And they're further subdivided because there's two factions in the clans. There's the Wardens and the Crusaders. The Wardens espouse the philosophy of we are protecting the inner sphere against exigent threats,
Mm-hmm.
external threats. And people are like, external? We've gone, hundreds of star systems across the galaxy. We've never encountered an external threat. What are you even talking about?
And see, this is an important thing that I want to talk about in regards to that. What we're talking about is space sci-fi. We've got giant robots. We've got spaceships. We've got wars that last 50, 60 years. And one of the things that makes Mech Warrior and the Battletech fluff so unique in this is that there are no aliens.
There are no damn aliens.
It's all humans.
Yep.
And either humans that have been off planet for 5 or 6 generations, but all born on, essentially, it's human. It is Homo sapiens sapien, even through Kerensky's Kerenskying of the Kerensky with the eugenics. The Kerenskys are still human DNA. And that's a really big thing, kind of like... you're dealing with the sci-fi genre and you're going out in space and you're doing all that stuff. But yeah, no aliens. So that whole idea of external threat, we've been out here for 57 years. We've crossed all of the space territory that we have managed to conquer and acquire. Not even conquer, just discover and acquire. And we ain't found anybody else. What external threats are you talking about?
Exactly. So... and by contrast, the Crusader, those of the Crusader philosophy are just like, no, we are the saviors that are going to impose Kerensky's will on these fools that basically destroyed themselves.
Yeah.
So there's some contention there, and they sort of get into it a little bit later, because they all move in under sort of like, yeah, we're going to go there and stuff's going to happen. It's going to be great. And then when they get there, like... Clan Smoke Jaguar peels off and like, yeah, no, we're gonna eradicate this failed abortion called mankind from the face of all these planets and replace it with our glorious selves. And then Wolf's like, wait, what? Hold on, no, we didn't sign on for this. We certainly weren't gonna do that.
I didn't know what we are going to do. We didn't have it clear what we were going to do, but that wasn't it.
So the politics become fractious upon fractious upon fractious in Battletech. And again, that's very, very relatable, I guess. There's always, divide and conquer politics, and things get gnarly. So there's a creation of the new Star League right around the time that... right at the height of the clan invasion, and so right midway between the battle of I think it was called Tukayed, where they win their 15-year truce. Like, that's in 3052. 15 years later would be 3067. So 3067, they unify a little bit before that to take out one of the clans that's sort of espousing the Crusader philosophy of, like, burn them all. They completely eradicate this clan called Smoke Jaguar because apparently everything you read about them, they were massive jerks. So then the Star League falls apart because they push off the clans. They're like, nah, this is terrible. This has failed. 3 of the houses pull out, and the Word of Blake, who had been very patiently, they had been accepted as members of the Star League, of the newly formed Star League in 3064. And they're like, oh man, when that conference happens in 3067, we're going to be admitted to the Star League and everything's going to be great, and we're going to be able to preach to the masses. And wait, what? Star League falls apart. Word of Blake is furious. They think it's a betrayal, a conspiracy, a betrayal of everything that Blake stood for. And then they declare the jihad. They start... They gather allies and they basically start routing anyone that doesn't agree with the Word of Blake philosophy. And it becomes gnarly. 11 years pass and you have current timeline. 11 years of jihad. The battles are still raging. Word of Blake is just a nightmare organization of fanatics who, again, religious cultists with giant robots. It is like the worst of every conceivable world.
Says you. That sounds awesome to me. I don't, religious cults, but then, when we play War Machine, I play the Protectorate. So
fair.
Religious
fair.
cults with giant robots.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, so for those of you guys out there, this is some thick fluff. I mean, this stuff is really thick, and it actually made some decent sci-fi books for young adults. and I have to make this clear because one of the things about a lot of fiction, especially in the genres of sci-fi, anything having to do with space, future speculative fiction, it has one major problem, and that is when you draw stuff in the sort of near future, by the time that time comes, most of the time, and history has told us this from Star Trek to the Jetsons to 30th Century Fox, by the time real life catches up to the years that these things are set in, technology hasn't only caught up, but it's surpassed.
Absolutely.
You know, it has surpassed everything. Like, the only way that we are not more advanced than the Jetsons right now is houses that live above the clouds and flying cars.
Mass market flying cars.
Yeah.
Do they have teleportation?
No, they didn't.
No,
they didn't have. They didn't have teleportation.
Yeah.
They had visiphones.
And your robot maid is less personable. Mostly it just vacuums.
You know, I think Rosie was an anomaly because we didn't see very many other robot maids on the show.
That's true. They may have just been the Joneses to which everyone has to keep up with.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, so I'm not gonna go on a tangent of the Jetsons, but
right.
But in the past 34 years since this game has come out, God, 34 years.
Yeah.
The fiction itself has been, I can say, bizarre. Because it is very Games of Thronesy. Of course, not nearly as adult, which is good. Not nearly as many pages as them writing about food or heraldry. Okay, food. But when it comes to the thickness of the stories, like, there's at least 10 novels on each clan. There's at least 12 novels on just the different eras of the Inner Sphere.
For sure.
You know?
There's a huge literary back catalog, as it were,
plus
to draw
video
from.
games,
Plenty of video games, the cartoon. They're all over the place, and that's what's kind of super cool about it, is that you don't need to go very far to find out, like, okay, pick a year, just boop, that one. What were they doing right about then? And you can get down to almost the months, down to even the weeks, maybe even the days of like, here's what events are happening here, and how can I fit the story I'm trying to create in there?
Yeah.
Or you know, there's just a wealth of a world. You know what's going on in all the important places, and you can kind of sort of fit yourself into that world, which is really, really fun when you have a timeline that's that evolved.
Yeah.
That's that granular. It's and also on a canvas that wide. If this was all happening on Earth, it'd be hard to get a word in edgewise.
Yeah.
But because it's happening on the backdrop of the galaxy, the universe, whatever you call it, it's a lot easier to go, okay, and on this distant planet during this, you know, tumultuous time, you know, some shitbirds blew up some stuff and had great adventures and stuff. And that's really cool. That's one of the things that's really interesting about the manga, is it's such a rich background of stuff to draw on, and like only like classic, you know, D&D worlds get to this level of depth, or, you know, things that are based like the Dresden Files, where you can pull on all of Butcher's books to create, or the Black Company, for example.
Oh yeah,
where they did their treatment.
Really big.
You know, you have a huge history to draw on for a game world, and that's really interesting. And also the generational warfare, that it's basically almost like monarchical, heraldic, what's the word I'm looking for? It's knights, except instead of armor, they're in giant robots. And one of my, like, it reminds me very, very much of one of my favorite mangas that I came across years ago, called 5-Star Stories. And it was begun in the early 80s as well. And it's sort of the same idea that warfare in the future has evolved to this point where it's literally like one soldier in one robot duels with someone to accomplish a goal. It's not armies anymore. Like, we've moved past that. It's about like a sort of ritualized combat. And that sort of appeals to, that's definitely a gamer appeal, you know, of just like one hero strides onto the battle and fights for, you know,
because
for life, liberty, and country.
And each gamer is that one hero. Now, one of the aspects that really sticks out to me as far as MechWarrior goes is we've hit this apex of technology, and then there's that backslide.
Yeah.
You know, it's a huge backslide. Like, I've always loved, like, when I played BattleTech all that time in the 90s. What's up, Major Tom? You know who you are. I loved playing Clan. I was all about Clan Jade Falcon and Clan Wolf. And the weapons were better. The mechs were better. However, it wasn't as good as the stuff we didn't have access to because of the stuff that had happened during, the Golden Age of the Star League, I think it was. And just the idea of having a fictitious setting that says, look at all this stuff that you're working with. Yeah! And guess what? It's not as good as what you missed. And you're kind of going, what? No, these stories are about getting better and better and better and better and better. And it was like, oh yeah, no, we passed that.
No, we're about trying to recapture a lost golden age.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of contemporary sci-fi tells this tale of future dark ages.
Yeah.
So just a quick rattle off: Warhammer 40,000, Fading Suns.
Yes.
Gosh, I had one more just now. Damn it. Foundation.
Yeah.
Isaac Asimov's Foundation.
I was gonna say Star Wars.
Absolutely. Star Wars, again, that's like some Kerensky level time, because it literally, the span of one man's life, we go from like everything's technology, the Force is midichlorians, to herp derp dirt farmer, this is a magic sword. Technology is magic. Arthur C. Clarke was always right.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just a very more pronounced backslide. You know, the backslide of Warhammer 40,000 takes 10,000 years.
Yeah.
To approach the point of, like, we're praying to machine spirits and appeasing them with the oils and replacing the holy screws.
Well, you know, most electronic components are actually made up of rocks and crystals, right?
True.
So
true, but it's borderline religious, so it's a very common theme, and it was really fun that you know, that this sort of started. So, you know, and it kind of was all about that time that these stories sort of began being told. So, you know, did Star Wars influence the rest? I can only imagine it did. But then again, like, there wasn't really a lot of backdrop on Star Wars to determine it. It was just like, okay, here's technology is what it was. So what, you know, which was the progenitor of this story? The Foundation series was written in the 40s. But then again, did E.L. Doctorow come out with the Lensman before that? You know, there was a progenitor story, and I'm probably going to end up doing some homework later to figure out what, you know, where this futuristic dark age sort of trend began, because it's really interesting, and it's such a fascinating setting to place for a game.
Yeah. So all in all, I would definitely say, like, if you guys are into sci-fi as much as I am, if you guys are into giant wobots, one more thing I was gonna put out there. Sorry, we're running low on time. But one thing I was going to put out there was, for you anime fans out there, what's up, y'all? If you're thinking that this is one of those fast-paced, look at the anime, like, this is like Gundam in storytelling and not in action scenes.
No, not at all.
The action scenes are very, oh my god, are you going to get here yet? Like, how can you actually think that you were going to be conquered by this robot, because it's literally walking at 20 miles per hour.
Yeah, playing the BattleTech game is an exercise in patience.
True.
It is slow.
Very true.
But in that it's slow, it's also granular. There's a lot of crunch involved, and you are going to be crunching some damn numbers,
it's
unfortunately. So it's one of the frustrating things about it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you have to calculate if you can move your hips, like if changing directions is a thing.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
And while in 34 years the system for BattleTech has changed very little, the system for MechWarrior has mercifully evolved.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit better in the third edition incarnation. It's still easy enough to get a hold of. If you have a mind to track it down. The older incarnations, the second edition was in 1991.
Yeah, but you can still track down the PDFs on places like RPG.net,
for sure.
RPG.
Yeah. They're eminently available, but probably the third edition is the one you want to check out.
Yeah.
Although the fluff's a little bit more condensed.
Yeah.
In that one, that is almost there's like 10, 15 pages of fluff.
If that.
And then each chapter begins with a little short story, vignette, and then it's just a 300-page document of rules.
Yeah.
Which is an unfortunate way that RPGs are turning these days.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. If you guys are interested in some of the backstory, just hit Amazon and look up MechWarrior or BattleTech paperbacks, and you can probably get them for like $5 to $8.
The original novels written by Michael Stackpole are arguably some of the best written of them. Those are the ones I've read. The ones that came later become really kind of campy,
young adulty. Let's call it that.
Maybe not even young adult, like young adulty, maybe in the era of White Wolf, so like kind of edgy for the sake of being edgy. Anyway, yeah,
almost
it's
like vampires falling in love with high school girls.
And also giant robots.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the Stackpole novels are actually legitimately well written and entertaining, and they give you a wealth of information about the world itself, which is a lot of fun.
Awesome. So, with that, I do want to thank you for showing up today.
My pleasure.
I've been so waiting to get this show back on the road since we took like our 1-year hiatus. Because, again, this was the first show that Back in the Deck ever produced. So this is, and we've come so far. We have come so far.
And thus begins the backslide.
I don't want to hear your Kerensky. You shut your Kerensky-Rensky, okay? But if they want to Kerensky at you, how can they find you on the web?
I can be found at D20_chef on the Instagrams.
Okay. Well, fantastic. And, of course, Decker's on the book. So I want to thank you guys for showing up today. I want to thank the chat. I would bring them up, but nah. But thank you, chat, for showing up, especially Yosho 700. Again, thank you. You threw a little shade our way, and it keeps me in line. But if you guys have your own BattleTech experiences, if you guys have your own MechWarrior games, again, the games has been out for 30 years, so chances are, between FASA, FanPro, the video games, the cartoon, and the WizKids game that came out about it, I'm sure we should be able to talk about some BattleTech stuff, even if it was one time I made this mech that conversations. Feel free to leave stuff in the argument section. I'm a big fan of the the comment section. And if you guys want to reach us here, then you can look us up at backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK @gmail.com. And thank you guys for showing up on YouTube. Let your friends know it's YouTube/BidP. That's BID space P. Follow us on the Twitter to see what we're working on and all that jazz, which is at Back in the Deck. Join us on the Deckers on the Book on Facebook, the Book of Faces, the app that we're all trying to get away from. But that is where our discussion group is, and I put it there so that we don't have to deal with freaking regulating a forum. Now, if you guys are like us and you spend lots and lots of time in traffic and you can't really watch this stuff, feel free to head to our SoundCloud at bid_P. That's SoundCloud/BID_P. And our entire archive is there for you to listen to and download and show your friends and convince them to come and watch the shows with you, because hey, we understand, and that's our gift to you, to say, you know what, listen to our hypnotic voices, listen to us as we know what we're talking about. And if you guys want to see the stuff that we're up to and look at some behind the scenes stuff, No, I'm not going to say look at our Patreon, but follow us on Instagram. And you guys get to see the games that we play, the sets that we're building, all of the swag that we're making for you guys. And I promise that as soon as the humidity drops, there will be more keychains and busts and masks and all the way. So, with that, I'm going to say, hey, thank you very much for showing up. And if anybody tells you that you can't like what you like or have the hobbies you have as long as they aren't hurting anybody because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender, sexual identity, sexual preferences, or budget, you just tell them to take those cards and put them back in the deck. This is Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, along with
Carl Viking.
And we will see you guys next Friday on Fluff Talk.